was a cool autumn evening in 1994 in the small town of Union, South Carolina. A young mother named Susan Smith made a frantic 911 call. Her voice was choked with panic. She told the dispatcher that a man had jumped into her car, forced her out, and driven off with her two little boys, Michael and Alex, still strapped in their car seats in the back. The story was every parent's worst nightmare. A defenseless mother, a violent carjacker, and two innocent children vanished into the night. The news spread like wildfire, first through the local community, then across the entire nation. America was captivated and horrified. Who could do such a thing? The next day, a tearful Susan Smith appeared on national television alongside her estranged husband, David. Her face was etched with anguish. She pleaded directly to the camera, begging the supposed kidnapper to bring her babies home. "My children wanted me," she cried. "They needed me, and now I can't help them." Her words resonated with millions. People across the country tied yellow ribbons to their trees in solidarity. The FBI launched one of the largest manhunts in South Carolina's history. Investigators followed up on thousands of tips, chasing down leads from coast to coast. The entire country was looking for Susan Smith's boys. The community rallied around the grieving mother. They held prayer vigils, organized search parties, and offered her comfort. Susan played the part of the distraught victim perfectly. She described the carjacker in detail: a black man in a knit cap, a description that would later be seen as a calculated and deeply damaging racial red herring. For 9 agonizing days, the search continued. The media broadcast Susan's tearful pleas around the clock. She spoke of how much she missed her sons, how she couldn't sleep, how she just wanted to hold them again. Her pain seemed so raw, so real. It was impossible to watch her and not feel a surge of sympathy. But beneath the surface of this heart-wrenching drama, inconsistencies were beginning to emerge. Investigators started to notice small cracks in Susan's story. Her description of the carjacking was vague on certain details. Her emotional state seemed to fluctuate in ways that seasoned detectives found unsettling. Sheriff Howard Wells, who was leading the investigation, felt a growing sense of unease. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. He decided to ask Susan to take a polygraph test, not once, but twice. She failed both. The pressure was mounting. Her story was beginning to crumble under the weight of 1,000 questions she couldn't answer. The nationwide search had turned up nothing. No car, no kidnapper, and no sign of Michael and Alex. Then, on the 9th day of the search, everything changed. Sheriff Wells brought Susan in for another round of questioning. He looked her in the eyes and told her he didn't believe her story. He gently but firmly pressed her, appealing to her conscience. And that's when the facade finally shattered. In a quiet, emotionless voice, Susan Smith confessed. There was no carjacker. There was no kidnapping. The entire story was a lie. She admitted that she had driven her car to the edge of John D. Long Lake, put it in neutral, and let it roll down the boat ramp and into the dark, murky water. Her sons, 3-year-old Michael and 14-month-old Alex, were still inside. The motive was as chilling as the act itself. Susan had been involved with a wealthy local man who had recently broken up with her. In a letter, he had told her that he wasn't ready to be a father and couldn't handle the responsibility of her children. In her twisted mind, her sons were the only obstacle to her happiness. So she decided to remove them. Suddenly, those televised pleas took on a terrifying new meaning. Her cries for her babies were not the pleas of a desperate mother, but the calculated performance of a murderer. She wasn't begging a kidnapper. She was trying to manipulate an entire nation. The public's sympathy turned instantly to outrage and disgust. How could a mother do this? Divers were dispatched to John D. Long Lake. It took them time to locate the car in the deep, dark water. When they finally pulled the Mazda protege from the lake, the nation watched in horror. The bodies of little Michael and Alex were found inside, still strapped into their car seats. The image was a gut punch, a heartbreaking confirmation of a mother's ultimate betrayal. Susan Smith was arrested and charged with 2 counts of murder. Her trial was a media sensation. The prosecution painted her as a cold, selfish woman who had killed her children for a man who didn't want them. Her defense argued that she was a deeply depressed and troubled individual who had intended to take her own life along with her sons. The jury didn't buy it. They deliberated for less than 3 hours before finding her guilty of murder. While the prosecution had sought the death penalty, the jury ultimately sentenced her to life in prison. She was spared death, but condemned to live with the memory of what she had done. Today, Susan Smith remains in prison, serving her life sentence. She will be eligible for parole for the first time in November 2024. The case left an indelible scar on the American psyche. It forced us to confront a deeply unsettling question. Can evil wear a mother's face? The story of Susan Smith is a horrifying reminder that sometimes the most terrifying monsters are the ones we would never suspect. Thank you for watching. If this story moved you, please consider subscribing for more deep dives into cases that have shaped our world. Stay safe and be well.